is something else, isn't it? Sometimes karma shows up when you least expect it. And that's what happened to Bill Ackman apparently last night. Bill Ackman, the billionaire who started this whole catastrophe at Harvard University. He was the one who wrote the letter to Harvard asking them to condemn the students that were having the pro-Palestinian protests. He was the one that said certain phrases were anti-Semitic that were never called anti-Semitic before. He started up a whole national controversy. He's a hedge fund guy, right? Billionaire. I told you before how he also had connections to Jeffrey Epstein. We'll get into a little bit more of that tonight because it's coming back up in the open. But when things didn't exactly go Bill's way, Bill decided to, well, let's get the president of Harvard University for plagiarism. And again, like I said before, I do not agree with plagiarism. I said that. But I also told you guys the real reason why they were going after her in the first place was because the Zionist powers that be wanted her gone. This is one of the powers of Zion. You guys got to understand, these are powerful people. The way that they can just come in and make sure that people are removed, right? So he put up quite a bit of a fuss about Claudine Gay plagiarism. He said she was a DEI hire. Well, last night, I saw this story right after I finished call-in, and it appears that now Bill Ackman might have some issues of his own. Check this out. Bill Ackman, celebrity academic wife, Neri Oxman dissertation is marred by plagiarism. Karma is a bitch. Karma, 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 karma. Yes, honey, it's all coming back. I feel like Celine Dion. It's all coming back to me now. Here we go. The billionaire hedge fund manager and major Harvard donor, Bill Ackman, seized on revelations that Harvard's president, Claudine Gay, had plagiarized some passages in her academic work to underscore his calls for her removal following what he perceived as her mishandling of large protests against Israel's bombardment of Gaza on Harvard's campus. Again, as I said before, billionaires should not be able to come into these academic institutions and start telling these institutions how they should run and what they should do. But part of this is Harvard's fault because they have depended on the donor money from those billionaires for too damn long. Moving on. An analysis by Business Insider found a similar pattern of plagiarism by Bill Ackman's wife, Neri Oxman, who became a tenured professor at Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 2017. Now, let's remember, folks, I used to work at MIT. I have some things to show you. Oxman plagiarized multiple paragraphs of her 2010 doctoral dissertation, Business Insider found, including at least one passage directly lifted from other writers without citation. This piece right here is important because people who are defending Neri, they're saying this is not the same thing that Claudine did. I'm here to let you know, at these institutions, though, if you use someone else's words and you don't have the citation or the quote marks, that is considered plagiarism. And if you are a student and they catch it, you would be expelled. And I'm telling you this because right now out here on Twitter, Bill Ackman's out here trying to defend his wife. He's tagging MIT in tweets. Everyone come help me. Poor me, billionaire. Come help my wife. No, this is karma smacking you in the face, Bill. Her husband, Ackman, has taken a hardline stance on plagiarism. On Wednesday, responding to news that Gay is set to remain a part of Harvard's faculty after she resigned as president, he wrote on X that Gay should be fired completely due to serious plagiarism issues. Students are forced to withdraw for much less. Rewarding her with highly paid faculty position sets a very bad precedent for academic integrity at Harvard. Well, we can say the same thing about your wife now, Bill. An architect and artist who experiments with new ways to synthesize materials found in nature, Neri Ackman has been the subject of profiles in major outlets such as the New York Times and Elle. She has collaborated with Bjork, exhibited at New York's Museum of Modern Art, and had paparazzi stake her out after Brad Pitt visited her lab at MIT in 2018. In 2019, emails uncovered by the Boston Globe showed Ackman pressured MIT to keep Neri's name out of a brewing scandal over an original sculpture she gave to Jeffrey Epstein in thanks for a $125,000 donation to her lab. I've covered that email on this show before, but I'll highlight it again. While MIT and Pershing Square Foundation continue to describe her as a professor in online biographies, a spokesperson for Pershing Square Capital Management said she left MIT in 2020 after she got married, became a mother, and moved to New York City. After this article was published, MIT responded to a prior request for comment, writing that Neri left MIT June of 2021. Her husband, meanwhile, has been vocal about wanting to see MIT's president, Sally Kornbluth, fired since Kornbluth testified on December 5th in front of a congressional panel examining how university presidents handle student protests against Israel's war in Gaza. Kornbluth said in her opening statement that she didn't support speech codes that will restrict what students say during protests. Ackman attacked Kornbluth's testimony, as well as that of Gay and the university president, Liz McGill. And remember, Liz McGill actually did resign, right? This shows you the level of power that billionaires have. Let's move down here. Doop, doop, doop. Oh, right here. He tweeted this to at MIT governing boards, let's make a deal. If you promptly terminate President Kornbluth, I promise I won't write you a letter. Ackman posted on X on December 10th, referring to an open letter he sent to Harvard's governing board criticizing Gay's leadership. To me, that sounds like a threat. Both Ackman and Ackman declined to comment when reached by Business Insider. Both posted lengthy responses on X to the piece shortly after it was published. Let's get into the plagiarism. Multiple instances of plagiarism from a 2010 dissertation. Neri's dissertation completed at MIT, she plagiarized a 1998 paper by two Israeli scholars, Steve Weiner and H. Daniel Wagner, a 2006 article published in the journal Nature by the New York University historian Peter Anker, and a 1995 paper published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society of London. She also lifted from a book published in 1998 by the German physicist Klaus Mathek, and in a more classical mode of plagiarism, copied one paragraph from Mathek without any quotation or attribution. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, by university definition, that is plagiarism. Bill Ackman showed his whole ass on Twitter over plagiarism accusations against Claudine Gay. But now plagiarism accusations belong to his wife. Karma, karma, karma. And you can see the examples here. Weiner and Wagner, Neri Ackman. The basic building block of the bone family materials is mineralized collagen fibril. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but look, the basic building block of the bone family of materials is mineralized collagen fibril. No quotations. That is plagiarism. Bill Ackman is out here on Twitter telling people that's not the same thing. This guy's a liar and a fraud. What you had happen here was you had a billionaire Zionist who's a hedge fund guy puff out his chest and make demands of these academic institutions. And now the joke is on Bill. It goes on to say here, another example, Klaus Mathek, Neri Oxman. They highlighted these examples here. The multiplicity of external loads to which a tree component can be exposed can be divided into forces. And it goes on here. The range of loads to which a tree is exposed is vast, and it includes forces of various magnitudes and directions, bending moments. You see this? Bending moments, torsional moments, bending moments, torsional moments. So you see, she didn't give the quotations. That passage was included in its entirety in Neri's dissertation. She cited Weiner and Wagner, but did not include the passage in quotation marks. This is a violation of MIT's Academic Integrity Handbook, both as it is currently written, as it was at that time. And I told you, I knew it was. You see, the MIT Academic Integrity Handbook, I used to have to actually go over that with students during orientation. Okay, so there were a couple of areas in that handbook that we would actually focus on, and one of them was plagiarism, because that's one of the more serious offenses, and they do not take that lightly. And it's not just MIT, it's universities across the country. If you plagiarize, they can expel you from the school. Moving on. Similarly, in most of other instances where BI identified in which Oxman lifted passages from other works, she cited the author, but did not put quotation marks around the plagiarized material. I told you guys, you have to do that. And that's the example there with Peter Anker and Neri. You have to have the quotation marks. MIT's Academic Integrity Handbook notes that authors must either use quotation marks around the words and cite the source, or paraphrase or summarize acceptably and cite the source. Oxman published her thesis in 2010. Identical language appeared in MIT's handbook at least as far back as 2007. Now, you see, if Bill would have just continued to mind his own damn business, and if he wouldn't have gone as far as he did with the Harvard situation, Business Insider wouldn't have actually decided to go snooping around looking for evidence against his wife. Now I'm going to bring up the same example I brought up with Claudine Gay last night. Again, when you have a dissertation, there is a thesis committee. So whoever was a part of Neri's thesis committee, how did they not catch that? And those faculty members should be held accountable as well. You know, these schools that charge hella tuition, Harvard and MIT, they're not looking too good right now. They're not looking too good. You're charging people over $50,000 a year to attend an institution that can't even pick up on plagiarism? Might as well go to state school. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. And here is the handbook here, right? So there's an example of an original accurate quoting, and plagiarism. So they are very clear about that. That's one of their biggest pet peeves. And there's other examples as well. I'm not going to go through all of them here. But listen to this. Ackman said Harvard's president plagiarism made her unfit to work. Like Neary, Gay was found to have lifted passages from other academics' work without using quotation marks while citing the authors. Gay's plagiarism was seen by some academics, including many of those she plagiarized, as relatively inconsequential. George Reed Andrews, a history professor at the University of Pittsburgh and one of the people Gay plagiarized, told the New York Post that what Gay did happens fairly often in academic writing, and for me does not rise to the level of plagiarism. But again, it's not really about what George thinks. It's about what the university policy states. I'm glad she read my work. I learned from it and recommended it to her readers, Andrews continued. But for Bill Ackman, the plagiarism wasn't the only cause for Gray's immediate ouster as Harvard's president. It is also warranted for her total removal from its faculty. In weeks leading up to her resignation as president, he posted more than a dozen times about her plagiarism on Twitter. He was actively out to get her. Ackman, a Harvard graduate worth roughly $4 billion, has been a prolific donor to the school. This is the first problem. Donor to the school. His most substantial donation of $25 million in 2014 supported the expansion of the economics department and the endowment of 3 professorships. You guys see this? He also made a smaller contribution to the rowing crew, a team he was a part of as an undergraduate. Why does it not surprise me that he was a part of crew at Harvard? He has the jackass mentality. Not trying to, no shade to the rest of you, you've been a part of crew. But if you meet people that are part of the crew team at Harvard, it's not uncommon for them to have this kind of jackass mentality. Ackman and Neary married in 2019, and their first child was born the same year. In 2015, Ackman purchased a luxury apartment in New York's swanky 157 building, which Oxman also lists as an address according to public records. The couple are listed as trustees for the Pershing Square Foundation, a charitable organization. Ackman began campaigning for Gay's removal in the wake of widespread protests on Harvard's campus related to Israel's invasion of Gaza in October. Ackman decried the protests as anti-Semitic and accused Gay of not doing enough to protect either Jewish students or academic freedom. Again, this was Zionist work. And then you guys know the rest of the history there, where I've talked about that before. And then there was this part where he said, he wrote that he had been informed that Harvard would not choose a president who did not meet the DEI office criteria. Gay, he implied, would most likely not have obtained the role of president were it not for a fat finger on the scale. Well, I have something to say to that, Bill. Was Neary a diversity hire at MIT? Because you see, for people who are not aware, at MIT, when it came to diversity hires, that also means women. Because MIT is heavily male. And one of the things they've tried to do over the years is to increase the female population at MIT. So when they hired your wife, Bill, was she a DIE hire? Let's continue. This piece here that gets into the other Harvard stuff that we all know about. This part. When a user on X asked Ackman why he wasn't going after Kornbluth, Ackman's response was to the point, stay tuned, MIT. So you see, he's threatening MIT as well. This ain't the first time, though. I'm going to pull up something in just a second to show you another time when he did that. Rando said she tweeted out a rebuttal denying that she plagiarized. However, both Business Insider and Bloomberg decided to run with it. So this person, they replied to me. And so I responded and I said, Neri Oxman admits to plagiarizing in her doctoral dissertation after Business Insider report. So there's that. Neri Oxman admits to plagiarizing in her doctoral dissertation after Business Insider report. Honey. And we're just going to highlight this part. I don't even have to read the whole thing. Neri Oxman, the wife of billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, admitted to failing to properly credit sources in portions of her doctoral dissertation after Business Insider published an article finding that Oxman engaged in a pattern of plagiarism similar to that of former Harvard president Claudine Gay. I'll accept apologies via DM, email, you know what it is. Karma is a bitch. Now, I want to show you something else because like I said before, this goes deeper than one may think. We're going to pull up this email. Yeah. We're going to share this here. Remember I told you about this because like I said, this was not the first time that he intervened. You see, I wish I could do this differently. I've shown it on here before larger, but I'll just read parts of it to you guys because I don't think I can zoom in. Oh, I can. Okay. All right. And if this will just go away. You see this email? Okay. So let me explain something. After Jeffrey Epstein was convicted, there was a lot of panic at schools like MIT because Jeffrey Epstein donated money to the media lab at MIT and there were other people connected, right? Neri was one of those people that was connected. So there was this email from Bill Ackman. Somehow it found its way on Twitter. And here we are. I want to show you what else he did. From Bill Ackman to Neri, and notice he CC'd, this is Joy Ito, okay? Joy, he had to resign from MIT because of he was taking money from Jeffrey Epstein, and they tried to keep it off the books. Listen to this. Neri forwarded your email to me. I would please ask that you copy me on all Epstein-related communications going forward, as I and members of my legal and communication teams are working to help her. And Neri already has enough on her plate, breastfeeding a 3-month-old baby, a very beautiful one, I might add, without a baby nurse until early September. You see, this is bougie shit. She's not going to have a baby nurse until September. So what? That's billionaire talk. Poor you, no baby nurse. This is Bill Ackman talking to Joy Ito, telling him to include him on Epstein-related communications. Now, I want to remind you, Bill Ackman wasn't working at MIT. This was him again, putting his hands in places where it did not belong. This is the worst part. On advice on handling the recent press requests, I would suggest that on background that you let the press know that Epstein did not receive a disobedience award, but he, like other donors to the lab, donor names redacted, although I would, of course, not mention their names, received a gift from the Media Lab of a unique design object. I don't think it's necessary for you to say it was at your request. You see what's happening here? Which, as I understand, in this case, it was. But it is very important that you don't mention Neri's name. Here's Bill Ackman telling Joy Ito, who's another faculty member at Media Lab at that point in time, telling him what to say to the press in reference to Jeffrey Epstein. How is this shit legal? It goes on. Don't mention Neri's name. Otherwise, don't mention Neri's name or otherwise get her involved, or she will have to issue her own statement to protect her reputation, explaining why it was sent and at whose request, who else received similar gifts, how she met Epstein, who else at MIT received funding from Epstein, why she declined to attend meetings and dinners with Epstein, which other faculty attended. So that right there sounds like blackmail. You say what I tell you to say to the press. You keep my wife's name out of it to protect her reputation. Otherwise, she's going to start talking about what else happened with Jeffrey Epstein and MIT. The part that really stood out to me was how she met him. That part that he mentioned. Why is that a bad thing? What were the circumstances about how she met him? This will, of course, blow this up even more, which we certainly not like to see happen. Although I don't think it's necessary to mention this, according to Neri, the gift Epstein received differed from the disobedience award as it had a different base. The orb had a different pattern, and it did not come with a certificate among other differences. The fact that Neri, as the designer of the Media Lab, was asked to produce nearly all, if not all, physical gifts for donors using her and her students' time and resources at either you, Raphael's office, Nina, or Jess' request is not a good reason for Neri to be outed as the supplier to Epstein. So Raphael, for those who are not aware, he was actually president of MIT at that point in time. Because of Neri's profile, her upcoming MoMA show, and the large amount of recent media about her, she would be an appealing target for the press, as I am sure you understand. To be clear, Neri's interests are not adverse to you, the Media Lab, or MIT, but I don't want to see her forced into a position where, to protect her name, she is required to be transparent about everything. Hear this again. She is required to be transparent about everything that took place at MIT with Epstein. What all happened? And ends it here. Once her name appears in the press, she will face a barrage of questions, and anything other than the perfect transparency to the media will make her look like she is hiding something. Well, she was. This was regretfully become a witch hunt, as I'm sure you already understand. Neri has nothing to hide about the Epstein situation, but would rather stay quiet unless she is forced to do so otherwise. If she had nothing to hide, then she would have no problem telling the truth. We will be on a flight beginning 10:30 a.m. Eastern until about 7 p.m., but I am reachable before if you would like to discuss this further or possibly by email during the flight. Thank you, Bill. That's his name right there, William Ackman. When I tell you all these people hang together, all these people are in the same club, honey, it's a big club and we are not in it. And when I tell you that big money is really controlling everything and making decisions out here in these streets, believe me, that's what's happening. But karma, karma, karma. We'll have to wait and see what happens at MIT. But karma is a bitch. Let's go to some of the comments in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Penny. Israeli Dan Gelter bribed Congo for cobalt licensors, I think you mean. Interesting. Thank you. Where's the love? Love how you bring the receipts, Sabby. Thank you. Thank you, Bryce. Share some of my fantasy football winnings. Keep up the top-notch work, Sabs. Well, I'm glad somebody won because I didn't. I didn't make it to the playoffs this year. And thank you, Marcus. Pitch my organization idea, MWM. They came up with a coordinated effort, strategy of dozens of shows covering the same topic at the same time. That's interesting. That could actually work, Marcus. That could actually work. Woo! That was an interesting story.